Imagine you're holding like a physical map. And right there in the center of the paper, drawn in this really dark, heavy ink, is a massive, undeniable mountain.
Okay, I can picture that.
Right. So you orient yourself, you walk out into the actual terrain, you look up, and the mountain simply isn't there.
Wait, it's just completely gone.
Totally gone. It's just flat ground. And you look back at the map completely bewildered because the ink is telling you one thing, but your own senses are, telling you something entirely different.
Oh, man, that is such a perfect way to describe it.
Yeah, because that is exactly what it feels like to read an English word with a hard consonant printed right in the middle of it, only to hear a native speaker completely ignore it.
It really does feel like a betrayal, doesn't it?
It really does. You see a T in black and white, but when the word is actually spoken out loud, it vanishes. It genuinely feels like the language is actively trying to deceive you.
All right, you are physically pointing at the page, looking at the T, and the language is just shaking its head, refusing to acknowledge it.
I mean, it's so frustrating.
It's a highly relatable, incredibly universal frustration, honestly, for anyone trying to master English. And it happens constantly with some of the most common high-frequency words in the entire vocabulary.
Definitely. So if you are listening to this right now and you've ever, tripped over these letters, feeling like your pronunciation is awkward or clunky, know that making these mistakes does not mean your English is bad.
No, not at all. Not even slightly.
Right. You are actively learning a language that just loves to break its own structural rules. So today we are taking a deep dive into a comprehensive pronunciation guide dedicated entirely to uncovering the hidden phonetic patterns behind these vanishing consonants.
And we should clarify, we are focusing specifically on how this operates in standard British English today.
Right, which is a crucial distinction. We aren't looking at obscure, archaic terminology here.
Exactly. We are looking at 20 everyday words where the T completely ghosts you. And, the mission here isn't to just hand over a vocabulary list for rote memorization.
Oh, please, no. Memorizing lists is the worst.
Yeah. It's exhausting. And ultimately, it's really inefficient. The goal is to uncover the underlying architecture.
Uncovering the hidden mechanisms.
Right. Once you understand why these letters disappear, you unlock a shortcut to sounding significantly more natural and fluent.
Okay, let's unpack the core mechanism of this deception first, because it really starts in the brain. When we learn a language as adults, especially, from textbooks or articles, we rely heavily on visual spelling.
We really do. Our eyes act as the ultimate authority.
Exactly. You see the letter T, and your brain immediately sends a signal to your mouth to articulate a hard T sound.
Which is a completely logical chain of command, right? But native speakers aren't relying on that visual map.
They aren't.
No, they learn the physical terrain of the language by sound, usually years before they ever see the words written down on a page.
Oh, that makes so much sense. Like, a native speaker absorbs the correct audio input thousands of times as a toddler.
Precisely. So while your brain, as a learner, is being tricked into saying exactly what your eyes see, the native speaker is just recreating the auditory landscape they've always known.
Which brings us to the first massive landmark that vanishes in the real world. Let's look at what happens when this letter gets trapped right in the middle of a word.
Okay, let's get into it.
Starting with the word listen. L-I-S-T-E-N. Your eyes see the letters. Your brain processes the visual input, and it just screams at your mouth to say, listen, Enya.
You really want to hit that hard consonant.
You do. But in British English, it is entirely silent. It's L-I-S-N.
Right. The visual T is completely overridden by the auditory reality. And our source material actually offers a highly effective conceptual trick to anchor this one in your mind.
Oh, I love this part. Tell them the trick.
So think about the physical act of listening. When you really listen to someone, you have to go quiet, right? You stop making noise.
Yeah, you have to be silent to hear them.
Exactly. And in this word, the T mimics that exact behavior. You are listening silently, so the T goes quiet too.
I really love how that connects the actual meaning of the word to its phonetic behavior. It gives the word a sort of physical logic,
It really does. It anchors it.
Now, if we look at other everyday words in the same category, a very distinct pattern emerges. We have fasten, as in to fasten your seatbelt.
Mm-hmm.
We have glisten, describing water shining in the sun. We have hasten, meaning to hurry to the door. And we have moisten, to make something slightly wet.
And if you line all of those up, listen, fasten, glisten, hasten, moisten, you aren't looking at 5 isolated anomalies.
No, you're not.
You are looking at a structural trap.
Right, because they all end in the exact same 4 letters, S-T-E-N.
Exactly.
It looks to me like the T is just getting physically crushed, like it's wedged right between the S and the EN ending, and it seems like the mouth just gives up trying to pronounce it.
That is exactly what is happening mechanically, and it's what the source formally identifies as the STEN rule.
The STEN rule. Okay.
Yeah. When a word ends in that specific STEN sequence, the T gets entirely suffocated. And to understand why, you really have to think about the physical aerodynamics of speech.
Okay. Break that down for me.
Well, language naturally wants to flow down the path of least resistance.
Oh, so it's an efficiency mechanism.
Precisely. Try to actually force your mouth to articulate fasten.
Fasten. Yeah.
Right. Your tongue has to push up behind your teeth to create the hissing S, then it has to abruptly halt all airflow to hit the hard stop of the T, and then it immediately has to reposition to create the nasal N sound.
It is incredibly clunky.
Fasten.
Yeah, I feel my mouth working overtime.
It disrupts the entire velocity of a sentence. So over generations of spoken English, the mouth simply smoothed out the jagged edges.
It's just got lazy, basically.
The S flows directly into the N, and the T is discarded entirely.
So you don't fasten your seatbelt, you FAS, you don't have 10 your steps, you has in them. The water GLANs it.
Exactly. It makes perfect mechanical sense.
It does. But what about a word like castle? I mean, the T is stuck right there in the middle, but it doesn't end in STEN.
Castle is an interesting variation of that same middle word trap. You see the visual spelling, and it feels so natural to want to lean into that middle consonant.
STLE.
Right. But again, in standard British English, the flow wins out. It becomes CAS.
And the source has another brilliant visual mnemonic for this, which I think is so helpful. Picture a literal castle.
Right, a big stone building.
Exactly. It is this grand, imposing, heavily fortified stone building. And above all, it is silent.
It's just sitting there.
Yeah. Just like that grand silent fortress sitting in the landscape, the T hidden deep inside the walls of the word is completely silent too. CAS.
Visualizing the silent architecture really helps override the spelling, I think.
It definitely does. Now, there's one word in this middle of the word category that causes a lot of confusion, and that is often. OFTEN.
Oh, yes. The ultimate battleground word.
It really is, because depending on who you are talking to or what media you are consuming, you will absolutely hear people hit that T. They will clearly articulate O10.
It is what we can call a controversial consonant, and it brings up a really important nuance about language learning.
Which is?
Well, pronouncing the T in often is not technically incorrect in every single global context.
Okay, so you're not wrong if you say it.
Not necessarily. However, the explicit focus of our source material is mastering standard British English. And within that specific dialect, the most widely accepted, fluid, and natural-sounding pronunciation drops the consonant entirely.
So it's OFN.
Yes, it is OFN.
So if I am aiming for that standard British flow, I need to say, I OFN go to the park, or she OFN forgets her keys.
Exactly. The harsh consonant just melts away into the vowel.
It just disappears.
It's all about achieving connected speech. When you drop that T, the word OFN links beautifully to the words around it, whereas OF10 acts like a tiny speed bump in the middle of your sentence.
Okay, so the STEN trap and the general middle word crushing effect explain why these internal letters vanish. The tongue is just taking the path of least resistance.
Right.
But that raises an entirely new question. What is the excuse when the T is completely exposed at the end of a word?
This is where we move into a completely different structural family.
Okay, lay it on me.
We are no longer looking at letters suffocating in the middle. We are looking at specific, rigid endings.
You mean the heavily and STLE family?
Exactly.
So if you look at a word like whistle, the literal instrument a referee blows during a match, the T is sitting right there near the end. But the pronunciation isn't WIS-TLE, it's WIS-L.
And we see the exact same behavior in wrestle. A physical struggle on a mat isn't a rest-TLE, it's a heli-LS. The harsh stop is entirely absent.
And the source also points out thistle, right, which is this incredible prickly plant that serves as the national symbol of Scotland.
Yes, the thistle.
Even with that sharp, prickly imagery, the pronunciation remains smooth. This.
Then you have words that describe movement and energy, which often come as a pair, like hustle, meaning to work hard or move rapidly, and bustle, meaning busy, energetic activity.
Oh yeah, you hear them together constantly in phrases like the HUSL and BUSL of the city.
Right. Your brain sees the letters and might scream HUS2L, but the reality is smooth and flowing.
We also have nestle, meaning to settle comfortably or curl up.
I love the example the source uses for this one. They use this very gentle imagery of a kitten to anchor the pronunciation, like the kitten, N-E-S, into the warm blanket.
Oh, that's nice.
Because the harsh consonant would ruin the gentle imagery of the word.
Yeah, totally. But N-E-S-TEL just sounds aggressive.
Exactly. And finally, apostle, primarily used in historical or religious contexts to describe a messenger or follower. It is A-P-O-S-L.
So the pattern here is undeniable. Just like the STEN rule, we have a unifying architectural feature.
Yes, we do.
In British English, whenever you see an STLE or a DTLE at the tail end of a word, that T essentially dissolves into the L. It never makes a sound. Whistle, wrestle, thistle, hustle, bustle, nestle, apostle.
And this is where the power of pattern recognition completely overtakes rote memorization.
How so?
Well, by locking in the visual trigger of those endings, you aren't just memorizing 7 random, disconnected vocabulary words. You are installing a software update in your brain.
I like that, a software update.
Yeah, you see that ending, your brain flags the structural pattern, and it automatically bypasses the consonant without you having to consciously think about it.
But, I need to pause and push back on this universal rule for a moment, just to clarify something that I know frustrates a lot of learners.
Sure, go ahead.
The source notes a cultural divide here. If I am watching American television or listening to an American speaker, I sometimes hear them hit the hard T in some of these endings.
You absolutely do.
Just like they do with often. So if a learner accidentally hits that hard sound, are they failing at English or do they just sound like they live in New York?
That's a great question. It is entirely a matter of target dialect, not absolute linguistic failure.
Okay, yeah.
And the mechanism behind why this divide exists is actually fascinating. It really comes down to geography and history.
The transatlantic drift.
Exactly. Hundreds of years ago, when English speakers crossed the ocean to settle in North America, they took the printed dictionary with them.
Right.
And the massive ocean separating these two cultures meant that the visual spelling of the language stayed frozen in place, but the actual spoken sounds evolved and drifted in different directions.
That makes sense.
So in certain American dialects, people began looking at the frozen spelling on the page and adjusting their speech to match the visual map. They resurrected the T because the text told them it was there.
They literally saw the mountain drawn on the map and decided to build it in real life just so the map would be accurate.
That is a brilliant way to conceptualize it. The spelling influenced the speech. Meanwhile, back in Britain, the natural phonetic erosion continued its course, smoothing out those endings.
So it stayed LISN and OFN.
Right. So if a learner hits that hard consonant, they will absolutely be understood. But it conflicts directly with the goal of this specific source material.
Got it.
If you want to master the cadence of standard British English, you have to deliberately ignore that resurrected American sound. The most authentic, natural choice is the silent approach.
Okay, so it is about making a deliberate, informed choice about your target sound.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've mapped out the internal English architecture. We know how the STEN trap crushes letters in the middle, and we know how the TLE endings dissolve letters at the end.
Those are the built-in rules.
Right. These are the built-in rules of the language. But English is notoriously chaotic because it is essentially a patchwork quilt of stolen vocabulary. What happens to the rules when words are imported from entirely different languages?
Oh, this is where we encounter the French invasion of the dictionary. And it requires a completely different approach from the learner.
Because these words refuse to play by the English rules we just established, right?
Exactly. Let's look at this third category. Words like ballet and buffet.
Okay.
You see that final ET ending, and every English instinct tells you to hit the consonant. You want to say ballet or buffet, but the T is completely abandoned.
So what's the guiding principle here?
The guiding principle here is historical preservation. When English adopted these words from France, it didn't just steal the spelling, it kept the original French pronunciation mechanics.
And a foundational rule of spoken French is that final consonants, particularly the T, are almost always silent.
Precisely. So instead of anchoring the end of the word with a hard stop, it just floats away into an A sound. The dance is BLA, the food station is a BUFA.
Right. And we see the exact same preservation in a word like valet. The person parking your car isn't a valet, they're a valet.
Or a word like depot, referring to a large storage place or a transportation hub. Your eye sees DEPOT, but your mouth has to say DPO.
And rapport, meaning to build a harmonious connection or understanding with someone. You don't build rapport, you build rapport.
Exactly. If the visual aesthetic of the word looks French, or you know its origins lie across the English Channel, you have to mentally discard the English rulebook entirely.
You just throw it out the window.
Pretty much. You treat the tail end of the word almost like a soft vowel, an A or an O, and assume the final consonant is just taking a nap.
It really feels like you need a completely different linguistic map for this neighborhood of the language.
You really do.
But even with all of these frameworks, the English efficiency rules, the French preservation rules, there is one word in this source material that defies all logic.
Oh, I know exactly which one you're talking about.
It is the ultimate curveball for any learner. Mortgage, M-O-R-T-G-A-G-E.
Mortgage is a genuinely traumatic word for people trying to learn English. It is a shock to the phonetic system.
I have to confess something here, because it highlights exactly how deceptive this word is.
Oh, do tell.
For years, as an adult learner, I confidently walked into professional spaces and pronounced it mortgage.
Oh, wow.
I know. I leaned heavily on the T, and I clearly pronounced the AGE ending. I thought I sounded incredibly articulate discussing my mortgage.
Oh, man.
Until a British colleague literally stopped a conversation, looked at me in genuine confusion, and asked what on earth I was talking about. I wanted to disappear into the floorboards.
What is so crucial about that story, though, is how necessary it is to destigmatize those specific types of errors.
It felt so embarrassing.
I know, but when an adult learner looks at that word and says, mortgage, they are making a careless mistake. They are actually demonstrating really sophisticated logic.
Oh, wait, really?
Yeah, you were taking the phonetic rules you had been taught and applying them perfectly to the visual letters on the page.
So the error wasn't mine. The error is that English is deeply, inherently illogical.
Precisely. Native-speaking children make exactly the same logical phonetic guesses when they first encounter these complex words.
Oh, that makes me feel a bit better.
It should. The only difference is that native speakers have the immense privilege of a fully immersive environment. They get gently corrected by parents and teachers on a daily basis over a decade.
Right, they just absorb the correction.
Exactly. As an adult learner, you are actively piecing together a puzzle where half the pieces are from entirely different boxes. Making a mistake like mortgage is proof that your brain is actively searching for patterns.
Well, it is a double deception, which is why it is so notoriously difficult. You have this massive, harsh T sitting dead center in the word, and it is completely silent.
Right.
But then the ending betrays you as well. It doesn't sound like age. It degrades completely into an IJ sound.
The entire architectural integrity of the visual spelling collapses when spoken. It becomes morgy.
He took out a M-O-R-G on his flat. Our source material actually provides a darkly hilarious but highly effective memory trick for this specific nightmare of a word.
Oh, the stress trick.
Yes. They point out that having a mortgage is an incredibly stressful and expensive burden. And just like the financial stress of paying it off, you don't even realize the T is missing until it is far too late.
It is painfully accurate, but it works. You just have to let the visual letters go entirely and surrender to the chaotic auditory reality. Mortgage.
Okay, so we have mapped out the terrain. We understand the physical aerodynamics of the STEN trap crushing internal letters. We understand how the TLE and STLE endings dissolve letters at the end of words.
We've covered a lot.
We really have. We've navigated the French imports where the spelling lies to us completely, and we've survived the double deception of mortgage.
Survive being the key word there.
Right. But intellectually understanding this architecture is only half the battle. How does a learner actually rewire their brain to use this information in the middle of a fast-paced, real-time conversation?
This is where the source transitions from theory into strict, actionable practice, and they are incredibly adamant about this next step.
Okay, what do we have to do?
Reading this guide silently to yourself is completely insufficient. You cannot just look at this architecture and expect your pronunciation to magically transform the next time you speak.
Because knowing the map doesn't mean your legs know how to walk the terrain.
Exactly. It is a mechanical, physical issue, not just an intellectual one. Your mouth, your tongue, your lips, they literally have muscle memory.
Right. They're used to making certain shapes.
Over the course of your language learning journey, they have built strong physical habits. They are deeply accustomed to forming that harsh T sound the moment your eyes register the letter on a page. You have to actively, physically practice the mechanical movement of bypassing it.
So you have to train your tongue to take the new shortcut.
You have to speak the words out loud. over and over again in an empty room.
It feels a bit silly, but I get it.
It does feel silly, but the goal here is not to achieve absolute flawless perfection on your first attempt. The goal is steady progression.
Progression over perfection.
Exactly. Every single time you physically articulate one of these words correctly out loud, your brain is laying down a new neural pathway. You are building a stronger phonetic connection between the visual trigger and the new muscle movement.
So it eventually becomes automatic.
Right. Eventually, through physical repetition, it stops being a conscious rule you have to retrieve from your memory, and it just becomes the natural, effortless way your mouth wants to move.
Which means the only way out is through. So I'm going to challenge you, the person listening to this right now. I want you to say this exact phrase out loud wherever you happen to be sitting or walking. Ready?
Let's hear it.
The hustle and bustle of the castle.
Oh, that phrase is the perfect diagnostic test because it forces your mouth to navigate both structural traps back to back.
Try it one more time and pay attention to how your tongue moves. The hustle and bustle of the castle.
If you just navigated that entire sentence without your tongue hitting the roof of your mouth to sound out a single T, you are already actively rewiring your brain.
You are no longer just guessing at random vocabulary. You are operating on a higher level of structural understanding.
It is a relatively small adjustment in how you process the visual spelling, but it yields an absolutely massive return in how natural, fluid, and confident you sound in standard British English.
You essentially possess a mental cheat sheet for the landscape. We've covered a massive amount of ground today, completely exposing the letter T and tracking exactly how and why it vanishes into thin air across so many high-frequency, everyday words.
It's been quite the journey.
It has.
Yeah.
But before we wrap up this deep dive into the hidden mechanics of English pronunciation, I want to leave you with a final, lingering question to ponder as you go about your day.
The architecture of English is full of dark corners.
It really is. We've spent all this time catching the letter T, pulling this elaborate vanishing act. But if this single consonant is capable of so thoroughly deceiving us, what other letters are out there right now, hiding in plain sight, silently ghosting their way through the English dictionary without us even realizing it?
Oh man, that is a deeply daunting question for any language learner.
It is something to keep in mind the next time you look at a printed word and wonder if the ink is actually telling you the truth. Until next time, keep questioning the map, keep practicing your shortcuts out loud, and don't let those silent letters catch you off guard.